An animal declared extinct in 1936 might still be out there, with thousands of people claiming to have seen it. Imagine a monster from the age of dinosaurs said to be lurking in the dense jungles of Central Africa, its neck long enough to reach over riverbanks. In the snowy peaks of the Himalayas, giant human-like footprints were photographed, baffling explorers for decades. And deep in the ocean, a creature with tentacles long enough to wrestle whales was once dismissed as myth until colossal corpses washed ashore. These aren't just stories. They're mysteries rooted in tantalizing clues. Number 12. The ivory-billed ghost bird. Deep in the swampy, bottomland forests of the southern United States, a legend with feathers might just be flapping its wings. This isn't some mythical beast, but a very real, very large, and very striking woodpecker known as the ivory-billed woodpecker. Birdwatchers call it the Lord God bird, supposedly because that's what people exclaimed when they saw its impressive size and distinctive appearance. With a wingspan of up to 30 inches and bold black and white plumage, plus that iconic ivory-colored bill, it's hard to miss. Or at least, it used to be. The last universally accepted confirmed sighting of an ivory-billed woodpecker in the United States was way back in 1944 in Louisiana, with some credible reports from Cuba into the 1980s. It was officially listed as critically endangered, and many believed it had gone the way of the dodo, extinct. The main culprits for its disappearance were habitat loss, as old growth forests were logged extensively, and hunting. But then, in 2004, a team of researchers from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology announced something astounding. They claimed to have evidence of at least one male ivory bill surviving in the Cache River National Labong Refuge in Arkansas. Their evidence included several fleeting sightings and most notably a blurry 4-second video clip showing a large woodpecker with what appeared to be the ivory bill's characteristic white patches on its wings. They also reported hearing its unique Kent calls and distinctive double tap drumming pattern. The announcement sent shockwaves through the ornithological world and sparked a massive search effort costing millions of dollars. Hopes were high. However, despite extensive searching by many experts, no definitive universally accepted photograph or specimen was ever obtained. Skeptics argued that the sightings and video likely showed the pileated woodpecker, a somewhat similar-looking, though smaller and more common bird, that shares the same habitat. The debate became quite heated, with passionate arguments on both sides. Further expeditions and independent research groups have since presented other potential evidence, more fuzzy videos, audio recordings of calls and drumming, and even trail camera photos from Louisiana and Florida. Each piece of evidence is intensely scrutinized, with some finding it compelling and others remaining unconvinced. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service proposed declaring the bird extinct in 2021, but delayed a final decision due to ongoing review of new potential evidence. So does this magnificent woodpecker still fly free, a ghost in the ancient swamps? Or is it merely a wishful echo in the rustling leaves? The search and the hope continue. Number 11. The Ahool, screaming terror of Java's rongals. Imagine trekking through the dense, humid rainforests of Java, Indonesia, when a chilling, drawn-out cry of Ahool pierces the air. This is said to be the call of the Ahool, a terrifying winged creature reported from the island's most remote mountains and jungles. Descriptions paint a picture of something truly out of the ordinary, a cryptid that blurs the lines between known animal types. The most famous accounts of the Ahool come from Dr. Ernest Bartels, a naturalist who was exploring the Salak Mountains in western Java in the 1920s. In 1925, while lying in his bed in a hut near the Cijenko River, Bartels reportedly heard the distinctive cry. He later claimed to have seen the creature itself. According to his descriptions, the Ahool was about the size of a one-year-old child with a head resembling that of a monkey or ape, large dark eyes and a flat human-like face. Its body was covered in short dark gray fur, and most strikingly, it possessed enormous leathery wings like those of a bat, with a reported wingspan of up to 10 or 12 feet. It was said to fly with slow, powerful wing beats. Bartels encountered it again in 1927, this time seeing it fly over his hut. Other, less detailed reports have surfaced over the years from local villagers, often describing a large nocturnal flying creature that emits a frightening sound. Some stories associate it with preying on large fish, or even being a bad omen. The name Ahool itself is onomatopoeic, derived from its haunting call. So, what could this creature be, if it's more than just folklore? One popular theory suggests it might be an undiscovered species of giant bat. Java is home to many bat species, including some large fruit bats, megabats, but nothing approaches the size described for the Ahool. However, the possibility of an unknown, exceptionally large bat species cannot be entirely dismissed, especially in historically underexplored regions. Another suggestion is that the Ahool could be a misidentified large owl. While owls don't typically have monkey-like faces, some large owl species, like the barred eagle owl, Bulbo sumatranus, found in Java, are impressive predators. A fleeting glimpse in poor light, combined with an unusual call, could perhaps lead to an exaggerated description. However, a 12-foot wingspan would be far beyond any known owl. Some have even speculated about a type of undiscovered flying primate, though this is highly unlikely from a biological standpoint given primate anatomy. The descriptions are so specific, yet so elusive, leaving the Ahool as one of Java's most intriguing aerial mysteries. Number 10. The Mapinguari, South America's stinking giant. Deep within the Amazon rainforest, a place already teeming with incredible bioversity, lurk tales of a truly monstrous creature known as the Mapinguari. Indigenous communities across Brazil, Peru, Bolivia, and Colombia have passed down stories for generations about this fearsome beast, painting a picture of something ancient and terrifying. Descriptions of the Mapinguari vary from region to region, but some common themes emerge. It's often depicted as a large, shaggy bipedal or quadrupedal creature, standing over 6 feet tall, covered in thick, matted reddish or dark fur. This fur is said to be so dense that it's impervious to arrows and bullets. It possesses long, sharp claws, capable of tearing apart palm trees to get at their hearts. One of its most distinctive and frequently reported characteristics is its incredibly foul, nauseating stench, which can allegedly daze or sicken humans and animals from a great distance. Its roar is said to be deafening and terrifying. Some legends give it even stranger attributes: a single cyclopean eye in the middle of its forehead, or, more bizarrely, a gaping, stinking mouth located on its stomach. It's generally considered nocturnal and fiercely territorial, avoiding human contact unless provoked, though some tales speak of it attacking hunters or livestock. For a long time, these stories were dismissed by Western scientists as mere folklore. However, in the late 20th century, ornithologist Dr. David Oren began to investigate the Mapinguari legends more seriously. After interviewing hundreds of indigenous people and local settlers, he proposed a startling hypothesis. The Mapinguari could be a surviving species of giant ground sloth. Giant ground sloths, such as the Mylodon or Megatherium, roamed South America during the Pleistocene epoch, but are believed to have gone extinct around 10,000 years ago. Oren noted that many aspects of the Mapinguari descriptions, its size, shaggy fur, powerful claws, used by ground sloths for pulling down branches and defense, herbivorous diet, palm hearts, and even its supposed bulletproof hide, some ground sloths had osteoderms, bony deposits in their skin, matched what is known about these extinct giants. The foul odor could be attributed to fecal matter matted in its fur or scent glands. Even the stomach mouth, Oren suggested, might be a misinterpretation of the creature bending over to feed, with its long snout reaching its belly area. Despite Oren's intriguing theory and some tantalizing anecdotal evidence, including alleged footprints and fur samples, which have so far proven inconclusive or belonging to known animals, no definitive proof of a living giant ground sloth has emerged. Other explanations for Mapinguari sightings include misidentification of known Amazonian animals like the spectacled bear, though its range doesn't always align, anteaters, or perhaps even human encounters embellished over time. The Amazon is vast and largely unexplored, leaving room for the possibility that something truly strange and very large still wanders its depths. Number 9. The Chupacabra's freaky face. The legend of the Chupacabra, or goat sucker, is a relatively modern one, but it spread like wildfire. The name itself sends a shiver down the spine, and the creature it describes has morphed over time, leading to two distinct versions. The original Chupacabra reports emerged from Puerto Rico in the mid-1990s. Witnesses described a bizarre bipedal creature, about 3 to 5 feet tall, with grayish or greenish scaly skin, large glowing red eyes, spiky quills running down its back, and long fangs. It was said to hop like a kangaroo and was blamed for a rash of livestock deaths, particularly goats, chickens, and rabbits, which were often found with puncture wounds and allegedly drained of blood. This initial, more alien, like Chupacabra, became a media sensation. However, as reports spread to mainland Latin America and into the southwestern United States, particularly Texas, a different image began to emerge. This new canid Chupacabra was described as a four-legged, dog-like animal, but distinctly odd. It was usually hairless, with leathery grayish skin, a pronounced spinal ridge, powerful hind legs, and a gaunt, emaciated appearance. These creatures were also blamed for livestock attacks, often with the same blood-draining characteristic report. It's this second, canid version of the Chupacabra that has a strong link to known animals. Over the years, numerous carcasses of these Chupacabras have been found, particularly in Texas and other parts of the American Southwest. When these remains have been subjected to DNA analysis by biologists and wildlife experts, the results have consistently pointed to familiar species. Most of the time, these monsters turn out to be coyotes. Other times, they are identified as domestic dogs, raccoons, or occasionally other canids like foxes. So why the grotesque appearance? Key factor seems to be a severe case of sarcoptic mange. Sarcoptic mange is a highly contagious skin disease caused by mites burrowing into the skin. In canids, a severe infestation leads to intense itching, inflammation, hair loss, and the skin becoming thickened, wrinkled, and often covered in sores and scabs. This can drastically alter an animal's appearance, making it look emaciated, almost alien, and certainly monstrous to an unsuspecting observer. The stress and physical deterioration caused by advanced mange can also affect an animal's behavior, making it weaker and potentially bolder in seeking easy prey, like penned livestock, as it becomes less capable of hunting wild game. As for the blood-draining aspect, wildlife biologists suggest this is likely a misinterpretation of normal predator behavior. Predators like coyotes often bite their prey in the neck or chest area. After the prey dies, the predator might lick or lap at the blood, which is rich in nutrients, or internal bleeding might occur. The idea of a creature methodically sucking all the blood out is more folklore than fact, as the amount of blood and the method of its removal are often exaggerated or misunderstood. While the original Puerto Rican Chupacabra remains a more perplexing enigma, the canid chupacabras found in the US seem to be a case of known animals transformed by disease into something that looks like it crawled out of a nightmare. Number 8. Sea serpents, ancient terrors of the deep. For as long as humans have sailed the seas, they have told tales of colossal snake-like monsters lurking in the depths. These sea serpents are a staple of maritime folklore across cultures and centuries, often described as terrifying behemoths capable of coiling around ships or swallowing sailors whole. While many such stories are undoubtedly exaggerations or pure fantasy, the sheer persistence and consistency of some eyewitness accounts have led many to wonder if there's a grain of truth to these legends, perhaps sightings of genuinely unknown large marine animals, or misinterpretations of known ones. One of the earliest detailed accounts comes from Olaus Magnus, a Swedish writer and cartographer, whose 1539 map, the Carta Marina, depicted a fearsome sea serpent attacking a ship off the coast of Norway. In 1734, Hans Egede, a missionary in Greenland, described seeing a dreadful sea creature whose head, when raised, was level with the ship's maintop. He said it had a long, snake-like body that spouted water like a whale and moved by propelling itself with large flippers. Perhaps one of the most famous and credible sea serpent sightings occurred in August 1848, reported by the officers and crew of the British Royal Navy frigate HMS Daedalus. Captain Peter McQuay and several of his officers saw an enormous creature, estimated to be at least 60 feet long, swimming past their ship in the South Atlantic. It had a dark brown snake-like head, about 4 feet long, held above the water, and a long body. They observed it for about 20 minutes, and their detailed report, published in the Times of London, caused a sensation and sparked intense debate. Descriptions of sea serpents vary wildly. Some are said to be incredibly long and slender, like giant snakes. Others are described with multiple humps, moving in unison through the water. Some have manes, large eyes, or even horse-like heads. This variety suggests that sea serpent is likely a catch-all term for many different types of sightings. So, what could these mariners have been seeing? There are many plausible candidates among known marine life. The oarfish, Regalicus glen, is a strong contender, the world's longest bony fish, capable of reaching lengths of 36 feet or more. Silvery has a prominent red crest along its head and back, which could be mistaken for a mane, and is rarely seen alive at the surface, usually only appearing when sick, dying, or washed ashore. A large oarfish undulating near the surface could certainly look like a serpent. Basking sharks, which can grow up to 40 feet long, often swim in tandem, one behind the other. Their dorsal and tail fins breaking the surface in a line could easily be misinterpreted as the multiple humps of a single giant creature. Groups of dolphins or porpoises leaping in formation, or even the fluke and back of a diving whale, could also create a similar illusion from a distance. Some have even suggested that the enormous, flexible penises of male whales, sometimes seen above water, could be mistaken for a serpent's neck or body by startled sailors. Other possibilities include unusually large eels. The European conger can grow quite large, and an undiscovered giant species is not impossible. Frilled sharks with their serpentine bodies, or even inanimate objects like long lines of seaweed, floating logs, or unusual wave patterns. While the idea of a literal colossal marine snake is unlikely, the vast, unexplored oceans could still hold surprises, perhaps species that are large, rarely seen, and whose fleeting appearances have fueled the enduring legend of the sea serpent. Number 7. Nessie, the Loch Ness Enigma. There is arguably No cryptid more famous than the Loch Ness Monster, affectionately known as Nessie. This elusive creature, said to inhabit the deep, dark waters of Loch Ness in the Scottish Highlands, has captured the global imagination for decades, inspiring countless books, films, expeditions, and of course hoaxes. While local folklore about a water beast in the loch dates back to antiquity, with a 7th century account of Saint Columba supposedly repelling a monster, the modern Nessie phenomenon truly began in 1933. In April of that year, a couple named Aldi Mackay reported seeing an enormous whale-like fish, or monster, rolling and plunging in the loch. Then in July, George Spicer and his wife claimed to have seen an extraordinary form of animal with a long neck, about 25 feet long, lumbering across the road near the loch and disappearing into the water. These reports, published in newspapers, kicked off a media frenzy. The most iconic image associated with Nessie is the surgeon's photograph published in the Daily Mail in 1934. It appeared to show a long, slender neck and head emerging from the water, resembling a plesiosaur, an extinct marine reptile. This photo cemented the popular image of Nessie, but it was revealed in the 1990s to be an elaborate hoax, perpetrated using a toy submarine with a sculpted head and neck. Despite this, and other hoaxes, many other pieces of purported evidence have kept the mystery alive. The Hugh Gray photograph of 1933 shows an ambiguous shape in the water, interpreted by some as the creature's body and tail. The Dinsdale film, shot by Tim Dinsdale in 1960, shows a dark hump moving across the loch, which some analysts believed was an animate object. Numerous sonar contacts have been reported over the years, most notably by expeditions led by Dr. Robert Rines in the 1970s, which produced underwater photographs of what appeared to be a large flipper and a gargoyle-like head, though the clarity of these images is disputed. Eyewitness accounts continue to surface, describing various forms: long necks, multiple humps, large dark shapes moving swiftly through the water. Loch Ness itself contributes to the mystery. The largest body of freshwater in Great Britain by volume, incredibly deep, over 750 feet in places, and its waters are murky with peat, making visibility very low. So, if not a prehistoric monster, what could Nessie be? Many plausible explanations involve known animals or phenomena. Large European eels, Anguilla, are known to live in the loch, and some biologists speculate they could grow to exceptionally large sizes, though the long neck sightings are harder to explain this way. 2018 Edna study of the loch found a significant amount of eel DNA, leading researchers to suggest that large eels might be responsible for some sightings. Other candidates include misidentified whales, catfish, an invasive species that can grow very large, sturgeon, which occasionally enter Scottish rivers, swimming deer or otters, which can look surprisingly large and unusual in the water, or even groups of birds. Non-animal explanations include seiches, standing waves caused by wind or atmospheric pressure changes, boat wakes, floating logs, or optical illusions created by light and water conditions. The Greenland shark, a large, slow-moving cold water species that can tolerate freshwater for periods, has also been proposed as a candidate, given its size and long lifespan. Despite numerous scientific investigations and countless hours of observation, Nessie remains stubbornly elusive, her true identity hidden beneath the dark waves of the loch. Number 6. The Yeti, wild men of the snows. High in the treacherous snow-swept expanses of the Himalayas, legends tell of a mysterious ape-like creature known as the Yeti, or the abominable snowman. For local Sherpa communities, tales of this bipedal, hairy giant have been part of their folklore for centuries, often describing it as a nocturnal beast to be feared and respected. But it was in the 20th century that the Yeti captured the intense interest of Western explorers, and the wider world. The term abominable snowman was actually coined by a journalist in 1921 who mistranslated the Sherpa term metokangmi, which more accurately means man-bear snowman or cattle-bear snowman. Early Western reports date back to the 19th century. In 1832, B.H. Hodgson, a British resident in Nepal, described a tall bipedal creature covered in long dark hair that his local guides claimed to have seen. In 1899, Lawrence Waddell reported finding large, ape-like footprints in the snow in Sikkim. However, the event that truly catapulted the Yeti into global fame was the 1951 Everest Reconnaissance Expedition. Renowned British mountaineer Eric Shipton, along with Michael Ward, photographed a series of large, clear footprints in the snow on the Menlung Glacier at an altitude of around 19 to 20 feet. The prints were distinctly ape-like, about 13 inches long and 8 inches wide, with a clearly visible opposable like big toe. These photographs were published worldwide and sparked a frenzy of Yeti hunts and expeditions. Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay also reported seeing large footprints during their historic 1953 ascent of Mount Everest. Over the decades, various other pieces of evidence have emerged. Alleged yet, scalps and bones have been found in remote monasteries like the famous Pangbosh scalp. However, scientific analysis has often debunked these. Pangbosh scalp, for instance, was eventually identified as being made from the skin of a serow, a type of goat antelope. Numerous other footprint tracks have been found and photographed, some more convincing than others. There are also many eyewitness accounts from both locals and Western climbers describing a creature typically between 5 and 7 feet tall, covered in reddish-brown or dark gray hair, with a conical head and long arms. So, what could be behind the Yeti legend? The most prominent scientific explanation points to known bear species native to the Himalayas. Specifically, the Himalayan brown bear, Ursus arctos isabilinus, and the Tibetan blue bear, Ursus arctos prenosus, a rare subspecies of brown bear, are strong candidates. These bears can walk bipedally for short distances, especially when curious or threatened. Their footprints in melting snow can become distorted and enlarged, and the hind foot can overprint the front footprint, creating a single, larger, more human-like track. Genetic analysis of supposed Yeti hair and scat samples, notably by biologist Brian Sykes, has repeatedly linked them to these local bear species, or sometimes to dogs or other common animals. The Metokangi, name itself meaning man-bear, strongly suggests a connection. Other less likely theories have proposed an undiscovered species of ape or primate, perhaps a relict, population of a hominid like Gigantopithecus, though the fossil record for such a creature in the Himalayas is non-existent. Some sightings might also be misidentifications of other mountain animals, like langur monkeys or even reclusive human hermits. Despite the compelling bear theory, the Yeti's image as a mysterious, shaggy wild man continues to endure, a symbol of the wild, untamed places still left on Earth. Number 5. Bigfoot, North America's hairy giant. Across the vast forests and remote wilderness areas of North America, particularly in the Pacific Northwest, persist enduring tales of a colossal, hairy, ape-like creature known as Bigfoot or Sasquatch. The name, Sasquatch, is derived from the Salish First Nations term Sais Kdaplets, meaning wild man, or hairy man, reflecting the deep roots of such beings in indigenous oral traditions long before European settlement. Modern widespread interest in Bigfoot arguably began in 1958, when bulldozer operator Jerry Crew found a series of enormous human-like footprints around his work site in Bluff Creek, California. The local newspaper dubbed the creature Bigfoot, and the name stuck. These tracks, and many thousands like them reported since, are one of the primary forms of alleged evidence for Bigfoot's existence. Casts of these footprints often show a creature with feet up to 24 inches long and 8 inches wide, with 5 toes and sometimes a distinctive hourglass shape or a mid-tarsal break, a flexible mid-foot joint seen in apes but not humans. The most famous and hotly debated piece of evidence is the Patterson-Gimlin film, shot in 1967 by Roger Patterson and Robert Gimlin, also at Bluff Creek. This short, grainy 16mm film purports to show a large, hairy, bipedal female creature, nicknamed Patty, walking away from the camera, turning to look back once before disappearing into the trees. For decades, experts have analyzed this film, with some arguing it convincingly shows a non-human primate, citing its gait, muscle flexion, and proportions, while others maintain it's a person in a very well-made ape suit. No definitive consensus has ever been reached. Beyond footprints and the Patterson-Gimlin film, there are thousands of eyewitness accounts. Descriptions generally depict Bigfoot as being 6 to 10 feet tall, covered in dark brown, reddish, or black hair, except for the face, hands, and feet, with a robust build, broad shoulders, a sloping forehead, and no visible neck. Many reports also mention a strong, unpleasant odor associated with the creature, often described as smelling like a skunk, garbage, or rotting flesh. Alleged audio recordings of Bigfoot vocalizations also exist, featuring eerie howls, whistles, grunts, and even a strange chattering sound dubbed samurai chatter. What could Bigfoot be if it's not just folklore or hoaxes? The most common skeptical explanation is misidentification of known animals, primarily the American black bear, Ursus americanus, or the grizzly bear, Ursus arctos horribilis. Bears can stand and walk on their hind legs, especially when trying to get a better view or appear threatening. A fleeting glimpse of a bear in an upright posture, partially obscured by foliage, could easily be mistaken for an ape-like creature by a startled observer. Other misidentifications could involve moose, elk, or even unusually large humans seen from a distance. More speculative theories from proponents suggest Bigfoot could be an undiscovered species of great ape native to North America, or perhaps a relict hominid, a surviving descendant of an ancient human ancestor like Gigantopithecus blacki, a giant ape that lived in Asia millions of years ago, though there's a massive gap in the fossil record. The scientific community overwhelmingly dismisses these possibilities due to the lack of physical specimens, bones, bodies, despite countless alleged sightings. Nevertheless, the figure of Bigfoot remains deeply embedded in North American culture, a symbol of the wild and the unknown that may still lurk just beyond the edge of our understanding. Number 4. Mokele Mbe, the Congo's living dinosaur. Deep within the labyrinthine Lakwala swamp region of the Republic of the Congo, and extending into neighboring Cameroon and Gabon, local pygmy tribes tell stories of an extraordinary creature called Mokele Mbe, which translates to one who stops the flow of rivers. This legendary animal is often described in terms that evoke images of a prehistoric sauropod dinosaur, leading some Western explorers and cryptozoologists to speculate that a relic population of these ancient giants might have survived in the remote, unexplored jungles of Central Africa. Indigenous accounts passed down through generations describe Mokele Mbe as a massive semi-aquatic animal, roughly the size of an elephant or hippopotamus, with a very long neck, a small head, sometimes with a frill or horn, a bulky body, and a long, powerful tail. Its skin is typically said to be smooth and brownish-gray. It's generally described as herbivorous, feeding on malumbo fruit or other vegetation found along riverbanks, which it can reach with its long neck. Despite its plant-based diet, Mokele Mbe is reputed to be fiercely territorial and dangerous, said to attack and kill hippos, elephants, and crocodiles, and to capsize canoes that venture too close. Pygmies, reportedly, fear it greatly. The stories of Mokele Mbe first gained significant attention in the West in the early 20th century. Carl Hagenbeck, a renowned German animal dealer and zoo creator, mentioned in his 1909 autobiography hearing tales from explorers about a large brontosaurus-like creature in the Congo. Later, naturalist Ivan T. Sanderson, during his 1932 expedition to Cameroon, recorded local accounts and even claimed to have briefly glimpsed something large and dark disappearing into a river. Several dedicated expeditions have been launched since the 1970s, specifically to search for Mokulembe, most notably those led by biologist Dr. Roy McCall of the University of Chicago in the 1980s, and later by biologist James Powell and others. These expeditions interviewed numerous local eyewitnesses who provided consistent descriptions and even drew pictures resembling a small sauropod. Some expeditions reported finding large, unidentifiable tracks, hearing strange vocalizations, or observing unusual disturbances in the water. However, no expedition has ever returned with conclusive, irrefutable proof. No clear photographs, no film, and certainly no specimen. What could Mokulembe be, if not a living dinosaur? Skeptics offer several alternative explanations. The vast Likwala swamp region is one of the most inaccessible and biologically rich areas on Earth, home to many known large animals. Possible that sightings are misidentifications of these familiar creatures, seen under unusual circumstances or in poor visibility. For example, elephants swimming with their trunks and heads above water could, from a distance, resemble a long-necked creature. Large hippos, monitor lizards, like the Nile monitor, which can grow quite large, or even exceptionally large pythons could also contribute to the legend. Power of folklore and cultural memory is also significant. Stories of powerful mythical water creatures are common in many cultures worldwide. It's possible that Mokulembe is a symbolic representation of the dangers and mysteries of the swamp. Perhaps an amalgamation of observations of different animals combined with ancestral reverence for the natural world. Some have also suggested it might be a genuinely undiscovered, but not necessarily prehistoric, large animal, perhaps a new species of rhino, a very large type of aquatic monitor lizard, or another unknown reptile or mammal with unique characteristics. The impenetrable nature of its supposed habitat means that the mystery of Mokulembe, the Congo's living dinosaur, is likely to persist. Number 3. The Thylacines' ghostly return. The thylacine, more commonly known as the Tasmanian tiger or Tasmanian wolf, is one of the most poignant examples of a modern extinction. Yet it's also a cryptid whose continued existence is passionately debated. This large, carnivorous marsupial, Thylacinus cynocephalus, was native to continental Australia, Tasmania, and New Guinea. It was a truly unique animal, resembling a medium-sized dog with a stiff tail, an abdominal pouch, present in both sexes, though only functional for carrying young in females, and distinctive dark stripes across its lower back and rump, which earned it the tiger nickname. It also had an impressive gape, able to open its jaws to an unusually wide angle. On mainland Australia, the thylacine became extinct thousands of years ago, likely due to competition with the dingo and changes in climate. However, it survived in Tasmania, an island state off Australia's south coast, until the arrival of European settlers in the 19th century. Seen as a threat to sheep and poultry, a bounty was placed on thylacines by the Tasmanian government and private landowners, leading to relentless hunting, trapping, and poisoning. This, combined with habitat loss and disease, decimated the population. The last known wild thylacine was shot by a farmer named Wilf Batty in 1930. The last captive thylacine, a male nicknamed Benjamin, died from exposure at the Beaumaris Zoo in Hobart on September 7, 1936. Tragically, just 59 days before Benjamin's death, the species had been granted official protection. Despite this, no more were found, and the thylacine was officially declared extinct by the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN, in 1982, and by the Tasmanian government in 1986. But is it truly gone? Since 1936, there have been thousands of reported sightings of thylacines in Tasmania, and even, surprisingly, on the Australian mainland, where it's thought to have been extinct for millennia. These reports come from all sorts of people: farmers, hikers, motorists, locals, and tourists. Descriptions often match the known appearance and behavior of the thylacine, including its distinctive stripes, stiff tail, and unusual gait. It was said to sometimes hop like a kangaroo when moving quickly. Alongside eyewitness accounts, various forms of tantalizing, though often inconclusive, physical evidence have emerged. This includes plaster casts of footprints that some experts believe are consistent with thylacine tracks, blurry photographs and videos of animals that bear a resemblance to the striped marsupial, and even scat samples that have yielded ambiguous DNA results. Several dedicated research groups and individuals continue to search for the thylacine, using motion-activated trail cameras, night vision equipment, and acoustic monitoring devices in remote areas of Tasmania. Skeptics argue that most, if not all, sightings are likely misidentifications of other animals. Feral dogs, foxes, which are an invasive species in Tasmania, wallabies or kangaroos seen in poor light or at awkward angles, or even large feral cats could be mistaken for a thylacine, especially by someone hopeful of seeing one. Power of suggestion and wishful thinking can also play a role. However, some sightings are remarkably detailed and come from credible witnesses, making them harder to dismiss outright. The scientific community remains largely unconvinced of its survival without definitive proof, like a clear, verifiable photograph of a live animal, a fresh carcass, or unambiguous, any evidence from a recent source. Yet the sheer volume and persistence of reports keep the hope alive for many that a small, elusive population of thylacines may have somehow clung to existence in the rugged, untamed wilderness of Tasmania, a ghostly echo of a lost world. The search for this iconic animal continues, fueled by the dream of its rediscovery. Number 2. The Beast of Gévaudan, France's Reign of Terror. Between the years 1764 and 1767, the remote, forested highlands of the former province of Gévaudan in south-central France, now part of the Lozère department, were gripped by an unprecedented wave of terror. A mysterious and ferocious creature, or creatures known as les bêtes du Gévaudan, the Beast of Gévaudan, embarked on a killing spree that left an indelible mark on French history and folklore. This was no mere myth. It was a terrifying reality, meticulously documented in parish registers, official reports, letters, and newspaper articles of the time. The attacks began in the summer of 1764. The victims were predominantly women and children tending livestock in isolated rural areas. The beast was described as an incredibly savage and cunning predator. It often targeted the head and neck, frequently decapitating its victims or tearing out their throats. Survivors and witnesses gave varying descriptions, but common elements painted a picture of an animal larger than a wolf, with reddish-brown or grayish fur, a broad chest, a long, powerful tail, formidable teeth, and an uncanny ability to evade hunters. Some reports mentioned unusual features, like stripes along its back tufted ears, or an ability to stand on its hind legs. Its cry was said to be terrifying. Over 3 years, the beast was blamed for more than 210 attacks, resulting in at least 113 deaths and many more injuries. The scale of the carnage was so great that it became a national concern. King Louis XV himself intervened, sending professional wolf hunters, dragoons, mounted infantry, and eventually his own royal lieutenant of the hunt, François Antoine, often mistakenly called Antoine de Buturn, to deal with the menace. Huge hunts were organized, involving thousands of men, but the beast proved remarkably elusive. In September 1765, François Antoine and his men shot and killed a very large gray wolf near the Abbaye des Chats. This wolf, known as the Wolf of Chazes, was stuffed and presented to the king at Versailles. And Antoine was hailed as a hero. For a while, the attacks seemed to lessen or cease, and many believed the terror was over. However, by December 1765, the attacks resumed with renewed ferocity, suggesting either that Antoine had killed the wrong animal or that there was more than one beast. The reign of terror finally came to an end in June 1767. A local hunter named Jean Chastel, during a hunt organized by the Marquis d'Apcher, shot and killed another large, unusual-looking wolf on the slopes of Montmouchet. According to legend, Chastel used a silver bullet that he had specially blessed. After this animal was killed, the attacks stopped permanently. The body of Chastel's wolf was examined, and it was reported to have had unusual physical characteristics and a stomach content that included human remains. What was the beast of Gévaudan? The most straightforward explanation is that it was one or more exceptionally large and aggressive wolves. Wolves were common in 18th century France, and while attacks on humans were rare, they were not unheard of, especially by wolves suffering from rabies or extreme hunger. The Gévaudan region was impoverished, and its landscape provided ample cover for predators. However, the descriptions of the beast being larger than a typical wolf, and some of its reported behaviors, like seeming to ignore livestock to attack humans or its apparent cunning in avoiding traps, have led to other theories. Some have suggested it could have been a wolf-dog hybrid, which can be larger and more unpredictable than pure wolves. Others proposed an exotic animal, like a hyena, lion, or leopard, that might have escaped from a private menagerie, though descriptions don't perfectly align with these. More sensational theories even involve a human element, perhaps a serial killer who trained an animal or used an animal-like disguise, or even a werewolf, fueled by the superstitions of the era. While most historians and biologists favor the wolf theory, possibly involving a pack or a series of particularly bold individuals, the true identity of the beast of Wodan remains a chilling, historical, mini Wodan. Number 1. The Kraken. From mythical terror to marine reality. For centuries, sailors navigating the cold, dark waters of the North Atlantic, particularly off the coasts of Norway and Greenland, whispered tales of a sea monster of truly colossal proportions, the Kraken. This legendary creature, a staple of Scandinavian folklore, was said to be so immense that it could be mistaken for an island when resting on the surface. Its most terrifying attribute was its array of powerful tentacles capable of encircling and dragging entire ships, crew and all, down to a watery grave. Kraken was the ultimate terror of the deep, a mythical beast that embodied the perils and mysteries of the unknown ocean. Early accounts, such as those in the 13th century Old Norse saga, or Varadre, and later more detailed descriptions by Bishop Erik Pontoppidan in his Natural History of Norway, 1752-53, painted a vivid picture. Pontoppidan described it as round, flat, and full of arms, with some fishermen claiming its back was 1.5 miles in circumference. When it submerged, it supposedly created a massive whirlpool that could suck down nearby vessels. Its presence was also said to attract vast shoals of fish, which brave fishermen would sometimes try to catch at great risk. For a long time, scientists and the educated public dismissed the Kraken as pure sailor's fancy, a product of overactive imaginations or exaggerated tales of storms and maritime disasters. However, as marine biology progressed, evidence began to accumulate, suggesting that these ancient legends might have a surprising basis in fact. scattered reports of giant tentacled creatures washing ashore or being encountered by ships started to be taken more seriously. The turning point came in the mid-19th century. Danish zoologist Japetus Stenistrup meticulously studied various beaks from squid-like animals that had washed ashore or been found in the stomachs of sperm whales. In 1857, he scientifically described and named the giant squid Architeuthis dux, formally acknowledging the existence of a real-life cephalopod of enormous size. Throughout the latter half of the 19th century and into the 20th, more specimens or parts of specimens of giant squid were found washed up on beaches around the world, particularly in Newfoundland, New Zealand, and Norway. One famous encounter was that of the French gunboat Alecton in 1861, which engaged in a battle with a giant squid off the Canary Islands, managing to retrieve only a piece of its tail. We now know that two types of truly colossal squid roam the deep oceans. The giant squid, Architeuthis dux, can reach lengths of up to 40 to 45 feet, including its two long feeding tentacles, and weigh nearly a ton. Even larger, though with shorter but more robust tentacles, is the colossal squid Messonychteuthis hamiltoni, found in the frigid waters of the Southern Ocean. Colossal squid is the largest known invertebrate by mass, and possesses swiveling hooks on its tentacles in addition to suckers. These deep-sea giants are rarely seen alive in their natural habitat, which explains their legendary status. They are known to engage in titanic battles with sperm whales. Their primary predators evidenced by sucker scars, often found on the whale's skin and squid beaks found in their stomachs. It's easy to imagine how a glimpse of such a struggle, or an encounter with a massive, many-armed creature near the surface, could have fueled the Kraken legends. A giant squid, perhaps injured or disoriented, latching onto a wooden sailing ship with its powerful tentacles, could certainly have seemed like a deliberate attack by a malevolent monster. The first photographs of a live giant squid in its deep-sea environment were only captured in 2004 by Japanese researchers, and the first video footage in 2006. These modern discoveries confirmed what sailors had whispered about for centuries. The kraken, or at least a creature very much like it, is real. The journey of the kraken from terrifying myth to scientifically recognized animal is a powerful reminder that sometimes the most fantastical legends can have roots in the incredible and still largely unexplored realities of the natural world.